Are we online? Are we online?
I don't know. What do you think?
Je pense pas. Mais apparemment, si. Let me go on the browser.
Oh!
Voilà, c'est un peu derrière. Salut tout le monde. Pardon. If there's a big pause, this is because I'm very behind. Coucou, coucou, bonjour. I see the chat now. It's been a few minutes.
Bonjour!
As you can see, je suis là avec la toujours belle Solène.
Merci.
My lovely French girlfriend. Not that I have another girlfriend from another country. Oh, I need to stop playing this on the other browser. How are you? Comment ça va tout le monde? Give us a wave. Give us a bonjour in the chat. Salut Caleb. Salut Colton. Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining. What beer have you got? I've got une bière à la... No. Oh, myrtille. Blueberry beer. And you've got what? You've got from Corsica.
Moi, j'ai ma bière favorite, la Pietra. Je sais pas si vous connaissez, c'est une bière à la châtaigne. Châtaigne.
Châtaigne, ouais.
C'est très bon.
Chestnuts.
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 Exactly.
I don't know. Oh, salut. Ça va, ça va. I hope the chat is real time. I feel like it's maybe a bit delayed. How's everything going? I'm testing out new software for the live stream. Let me move the microphone a bit. I'm testing out new software for the live stream, and this is pretty cool. But whenever you try something new for the first time, you know there's probably going to be some technical problems. Bonjour, Steve. Nice to see you. How is everyone? Well, isn't it cool that we've got to 5,000 subscribers?
Yeah.
Yes. 1 to 2 minutes in delay.
Okay.
That's crazy. Maybe I'm going to go back to my settings. I don't think I can change that now. What should I do? Should I go and launch another one? Go through here? I don't know. Thank you for being patient. I don't know if I should launch a new one. Do it through here. If I close this, is it going to... Because I want your messages in real time, and this is not good. 1 to 2 minutes in delay is huge. I don't know what to do. Right, 4 minutes on there. 1 minute. C'est une connexion lente. Is this better now that I'm on? No.
C'est la connexion en français.
Ouais,
la connexion lente, ouais.
Je viens de voir ça là. Ouais. See, I don't know if it's me or you. YouTube says I have an excellent connection.
It's probably us.
Not me.
If everyone...
No, but it's a delay between them typing and us seeing the messages.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is annoying because I don't see the time next to the... No. I don't see the time next to the messages, so it's hard for me to say when you've sent the messages. So anyway, that's a bit annoying. I guess I have to just carry on. I'm tempted to start again.
$12 or $5.40.
Yeah. Okay, so it seems up to date now. So, okay. I'm going to say type the word sympa. French word sympa. And can you guys type it in the chat? And then I'm going to tell whether or not this is delayed or not. That sounds like a silly test, but it works, right? Oh, I'm waiting. Because it might have caught up. Wow, Maya, sympa. Okay, so that was like 20 seconds. We can work with that. We can work with 20 seconds. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. I'm good. Maya is joining us from Australia. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Maya. Comment ça va? Aggie Battery. Sympa. Steve, sympa. Cool. Vidushi, sympa. Awesome. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Vous êtes tous très sympas.
Vous êtes tous très sympas. I'm going to close this in YouTube now because it's definitely behind on the video. But that's all the same. So, cool. All right. So, wonderful to have 5,000 subscribers. Honestly, it's I wasn't planning to do anything special for this because in my head I thought, you get to 1,000. People don't want to live every time. You think you're going to wait till 10,000. But it was such a pleasure to see that number come up. I just thought, yeah, let's do something. 3,000 celebration was quite fun. Okay, so we've got a sympa coming in later. So perhaps it's slower for some people than for others. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some questions, both the ones that I got sent on Instagram and on YouTube from some of you. Solene's going to stay here as long as she feels like it. At the moment, the beers are quite full.
Yeah, until the beer is ended.
When the beer is ended, elle va partir. Okay, so I see your question, Caleb. Let's get to that in a second. I'm going to start with one on from Instagram because I got this snazzy new software. So let's see if this works. This should come up on the screen. Oh, boom! It comes up on the screen.
Crazy.
So, est-ce que vous pouvez me dire tout le monde si vous voyez le texte sur l'écran, s'il vous plaît? But anyway, the question came from David on Instagram, and he said, how much of my average day is spent speaking French?
Attention à ce que tu vas dire. Hein.
Pourquoi?
Parce que quand tu parles français, tu parles avec moi.
Oui, mais pourquoi faire attention?
No lies, guys.
Right. I'm not likely to put myself in trouble. So I'd say, to be honest, most of the day I spend here working at this desk that you can't exactly see the desk, but I'm at a desk, sitting here working and not talking to anyone. And then mainly I'll see Solène in the evenings and we'll talk. I mean, would you say it's 50-50 these days or is it more?
Je pense que c'est 50-50, ouais.
50-50 English-French of an evening, plus maybe a phone call during the day, and then plus que moitié-moitié, half and half, more than half and half maybe, on the weekend, depending on how I feel, to be honest. Because some days it just flows, it feels awesome, it's not really tiring. All the new things that I wanted to come out would just go from my brain to my mouth. And then on other days, it's pretty painful and, I just sort of skip to English.
Ouais. C'est la même chose pour moi, en fait, hein, en anglais.
Ouais. C'est la même chose pour toi?
Bah oui.
Ouais.
C'est normal. Ça fatigue de parler une langue.
Ça fatigue de me parler, non? Ça fatigue
Non.
de me parler.
Non.
Des fois, parce que je suis très bavard, moi. J'aime parler beaucoup.
Talks a lot.
Ouais. Quand j'ai quelque chose à l'esprit, je dois le partager, je dois le sortir. Johnny said, are you going to talk mostly in English? Probably, but on va passer d'une langue à l'autre. Ça dépend de l'humeur. C'est assez décontracté. It's quite chilled tonight. It's Sunday evening.
C'est un peu la façon dont on communique ensemble. On va
Ouais.
parler des fois français, des fois anglais. Comme ça fait
Ouais.
50-50.
I want to be able to be myself with you guys, to sort of, not just so I can be comfortable, but just to also show what the reality is. Because I remember when I was so stuck in just the mindset of I'm just a French learner, I tried to do as much French as possible, and I'd often criticize myself for switching to English. But the thing is, my reality is going to be different to your realities. My reality is I'm quite comfortable living in the sphere of learning and teaching the language, but I also love having English-speaking friends, so I do speak a fair amount of English. We're going to have lots of questions coming in. So yeah, guys, put in your questions. I'll try and get to as many of them as possible. I've got this list of 10 questions from Instagram that we'll go throughout the video, and I'll answer the questions that I see coming up on the screen. I apologise if I don't get to them, but I should do. Usually I'm pretty good. Why so many people? Bonjour to all the new people that are showing up. What is the best way to improve my French listening skills? In fact, that is a good question, and I have this actually as well. Let's put it up on here. So we've got, just because this has come up now, let's answer it now. So we've got JZ Gamer, or JZ Gamer, probably JZ, that sounds cooler, because in America they say JZ.
Jay-Z.
Yeah. What is the best way to improve my listening skills? And this was asked by Mohammed. Shout out to Mohammed, super fan. How to improve your listening? Well, I'd say that and you can help as well because you've got experience with English and Spanish. But I'd say it depends definitely on your level, the activities that you're going to do. Personally, I moved to France as soon as I could, so I got a lot of my listening practice from going to language exchanges and having classes with tutors, and then having to deal with life stuff in France. I still did a lot of stuff in English, but of course you have to do some administrative stuff, and that forces you to improve your listening. But then there's all these websites such as, I liked TV5 Monde, the apprendre.tv5 Monde. That doesn't work. Apprendre.tv5 Monde, and then you can do all these different listening exercises on there. You know, I'm sure you guys know all the answers about, like, there's the podcast, there's the websites where you can practice your listening.
I think the best for me was to watch a video in English, in my case, and to put the subtitle in English, and then you can hear and read at the same time. That's for maybe higher level, but you can start with your own language if you want, like put it in English or in French in that case, and put it in your own language, like that you have a translation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a case of doing it a lot. I think a lot of the time there's so many resources out there for everything that it's tempting to think, I want to switch. Do I need to move to another tool to make this better? Actually, you need to just keep going. If you see something working, even a little bit, stick with it and do it more and more and more and more and more. But the more exposure you can get to the language, the better. That's one of the best ways of improving your listening, for sure. But yeah, TV5 Monde is very useful. And then but don't neglect the power of real conversation, because when you're engaged in a conversation with someone, you pay more attention to it. Active listening is way more powerful than passive.
True.
Mike is here from Australia. Salut, Mike. Welcome. You made it. I was going to put the link in here because I can type it. Look, I think it was apprendre.tv5monde.fr or something like that. So let's go back up to this question that I had earlier that I said I was going to skip over.
About cultural, like this one.
Oh yeah, he did that, didn't he? What do you think of French people culture? Well, don't tell this person. Qu'est-ce que je pense de la culture française et des gens français? And what do you think the first? What did you think the first time?
Aha.
I don't know. I mean, let me hide this question off the screen. I'm still getting used to this. Where is it? This one. Well, I would say that I didn't really have any preconceived ideas about French people. I mean, I'm sure I did. Everyone does, right? You learn them throughout your life. What does your country show French people to be like? You know, do they wear garlic around their necks? Do they wear black and white stripes? Do they wear beret? Do they all smoke? So what was the question? What do you think of French people culture? I don't really.
You like bread and wine.
I suppose that's culture, right? I think culture. I think of like art and stuff. But yeah. I like bread. I like wine, and I've started enjoying cheese more since I've been here. It's come into my life more. Because I'm not very adventurous with food, but the fact that it's there and people invite me over and we eat lots of cheese, that's kind of come into my life. But when I started enjoying French and learning French, I was in Australia. So I was meeting these French backpackers. Some of them were Belgian, but most of them were French. And so they had they were some French people that were adventurous and left. So they already were a little different from the French people you might expect to meet in, a village or a small town here where they wouldn't have that many opportunities to leave. So I guess that, in a subtle but powerful way, shifted my vision of French people as well. I didn't realize they were that adventurous, and I admired those people for going out to an English-speaking country and trying to get work. Obviously, not all of them did that. A lot of them just wanted to smoke weed and go around in a van and not work for a whole year or 2 years, as long as possible. But the people I resonated with were very lovely and ambitious, and I really respected that. I don't know if that was the perfect answer to your question, but that's what happens when you ask the question on the fly.
Do you think that French people are more alternative?
Alternative?
Yeah.
In what sense?
Like, I don't know, like uncommon or in some different way, like.
When I think of alternative, I think of like progressive, and you see lots of different identities, live different lifestyles. Does that sort of what you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and again, this is going to be personal for everyone watching and for you. If I go by my definition of alternative, I would say no, because I come from London, and there's a lot of alternative. In London you seem to be able to be who you want, and there's not really any there's judgment everywhere, but not too much judgment. And I came to Paris and it wasn't quite the same. Yeah, it's true, I think. And here even less. Yeah, okay. What do you think? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough, I think, of other culture to really compare, I think. I would say that French people are pretty different as Spanish and English people, but I don't know. We are all European, and in Europe, not anymore. Sorry. That's politically, like, in my heart, I'm European. Yeah. It depends on the people that you meet. Yeah. For sure. This is something that comes up a lot, and I always struggle to make generalizations because, and I'm not trying to be pretentious, I honestly see things in so much in individual terms that I really struggle to make those things stick to a group. Let's have a look down here. Are you teaching your girlfriend English, or does she know more English than you know French? No, I don't teach her English. She doesn't listen to me. She. Sometimes it's like telling me, Solène, you should not say chocolate, but you should say chocolate. But it's hard for me because I always say chocolate. Yeah, I'm trying to protect you from a classic French mistake. Yeah, exactly. une des fautes communes de prononciation que les Français font en anglais, c'est de prononcer chocolate comme chocolate et comfortable comme comfortable.
Comfortable.
Comfortable, right? So I just try and remind her about that, but no, she doesn't need my help with English. In fact, I learn a lot from her because of just the way she
make mistake.
but the way you approach I don't know how to describe it. Basically, I'm way more obsessed with getting things right than she is. She's much more about if it gets the job done, then I'm fine with it. And I think us as English speakers learning French can get a lot from that, because we go in, it's often our first foreign language and we haven't got used to making mistakes and how we actually should be. But once you see a French person like Solène up close for a long enough time, you realize, hang on, she's making lots of little mistakes, the same sort of mistakes that I worry about making that stops me speaking, and yet she just flows and thinks about something else. So I try and internalize that and push me on to balancing that perfectionist side with the one who just wants to get new things out. But I still do believe that you should I want to get better, so I want to rephrase stuff. We're 15 people right now. It's cool. Are you planning to do podcasts? Nope, not right now. Got way too much on my plate to do YouTube and Instagram and work full-time as a coach. That podcast, I can't imagine it. But if it becomes demanded enough, then who knows? But it might have to take the place of something else. If something is well known, do you say bien connu ou réputé? Moi, personnellement, je connais le terme bien connu plutôt que réputé, mais réputé me semble correct aussi, non?
C'est bien connu que ceci existe, tu peux dire. Donc, c'est plus courant de dire
bien
ça.
Connu.
Bien connu.
Plus courant.
Mais réputé, c'est un restaurant réputé. It's more for a place, maybe. Réputé. Une réputation, c'est des choses où les gens ont l'habitude d'aller. Ouais.
D'accord. Est-ce que tu dirais que réputé est plus formel?
Plus formel, ouais.
Plus formel.
C'est ça.
Ok, bien connu. Mais attention, Maya, if you say bien connu and it's masculin, you don't need the E. Okay,
Yeah.
Bien connu sans E. And if it's feminine, it's fine. And the réputé should have an extra E, right? Feminine, but little thing, but just because you wrote it. Okay, we've got one more. T'as apprécié le français par les Belges à l'Australie? Oui, bien sûr. But I have this image. J'ai ce souvenir d'un seul Belge parmi ou entre, je sais pas, un groupe de francophones à Melbourne. Et je me souviendrai toujours que lui, il était belge. C'était un Belge et non pas un Français.
Il disait quoi?
Je sais pas pourquoi.
Ah, tu sais pas pourquoi?
En fait, il disait des conneries, en fait. Je ne l'aimais pas trop, en fait. Il disait des conneries comme tout le monde est très feignant, l'anglais est trop dur. Je sais plus. Mais,
les bêtises.
Les bêtises, ouais, des conneries. Voilà, ce restaurant est très réputé. Yes, oui.
Exactly.
Mais c'est plus formel. Donc, tu peux très bien dire bien connu si tu parles à quelqu'un. Vraiment. Ouais. À l'oral, c'est peut-être plus... ça se dit... bien connu se dit plus que réputé. Ah, Mohamed is here. Salut, Mohamed. Did you hear our conversation about how to improve your listening? We answered that question. Yes. Okay, let's have another question. By the way, bonsoir to everyone new. Thank you so much for helping us hit 5,000 subscribers. It's really awesome. What do you think of I'm getting all techie now and a bit geeky tonight, but you see this lovely image you got at the top here. Yeah, I got geeky in Photoshop with that and learned how to put that in. And quoi d'autre?
He's such a geek.
Wow, I like technology. That's why this picture is so clear and this microphone is so nice.
That's nice.
By the way, guys, there should be something called Super Chat now activated, which I've seen on other big YouTubers' channels, where you can make donations and send chat messages through. But that's completely up to you. I'm just asking you if it is definitely there, because I am the host, I'm not a viewer. So I need you guys to tell me if that option is available. It should be activated. Other than that, did you guys know, and I'm proud to say I have two of my members here, Mike and Mohammed. They are two of the first channel members. And the channel, I'm calling the channel members here on French in Plain Sight les francophiles, les francophiles, but of course you are all francophiles if you love the language. But just to give it a nice name, for those of you who support me monthly here on the channel, you become an official francophile. You get one of those lovely yet colourful badges next to your name that you may see in the chat there. And these guys also get my videos a couple of days earlier than scheduled, earlier than public. That doesn't make sense. 2 days before public release of my videos, they get access to them. And we also do a monthly live stream for members only. I did one the other day and we talked about my experiences with the DELF B2 exam, which is a bit funny, and I enjoyed walking down memory lane. So I'm going to do a video like that. And also a lovely shout out in the video. So if you want to support my work, either for the perks or just because you like what I do, then you can hit the join button somewhere under the video and sign up. You would be a hero. Anyway.
Santé.
Santé. By the way, yes, new people, we have beers. Oh, Solene's halfway through the beer, which means she's leaving in another half bottle.
No. You talk too much.
When you host a live, you got to keep the sound coming. So
c'est sûr.
La vidéo est parfaite si tu es bavard. Hein.
Eh oui.
Très joli. Mike, c'est moi qui est très joli, hein? Ou c'est la vidéo, ou c'est Solène. Il faut que tu dises, faut que tu précises.
Il a mis un E, donc ça veut dire que c'est la vidéo ou c'est moi.
Donations are on. Awesome. Merci, Angel Sanchez.
Angel.
You can say that better than me.
Angel Sanchez.
Habla español, Angel.
Un poquito.
No, mucho. Okay, let's have another question. This one is from Memotis on Instagram, and he or she asked, what's the weirdest expression you've heard in French? So I struggle coming up with expressions, but I must say I was reminded of one, and it's quite an everyday expression. Well, it's a very common expression, and that is to say something like c'est pas terrible. C'est pas terrible. Let me know in the chat if you've heard of this, because you might know it grammatically. You might think, oh, c'est pas terrible. Okay, it's not terrible, right? So there's that. You might have heard that, but do you know what it actually means? Because it actually means the opposite to what you think it means. If you say c'est pas terrible, it's actually the worst thing in the world. C'est la pire chose du monde.
Mm-hmm.
C'est pas, elle est pas terrible cette bière. Je n'arrive pas à la finir.
Oh, c'est pas vrai. Tu mens.
Non, je mens. Mais c'est un exemple. C'est un exemple. C'est pas terrible.
Ouais.
Right? So that's crazy to me, right? And
Ouais.
sometimes it's really frustrating. And then on top of that, I learned on Oh La La French class, Manon on Instagram, she posted an expression. No, she said that in Belgium, you can say c'est terrible, and it means
That's awesome.
it's awesome. But in regular French, sorry to the Belgian people watching, in the French from France, saying c'est terrible still means it's terrible, right? But is it better than pas terrible? Which is worse? If I say la bière est terrible et la tienne est pas terrible.
Non, en fait, terrible, c'est pire que pas terrible.
Okay.
C'est ça qui est bizarre, c'est que l'inverse, en France, on dit ça a été terrible. C'était désastreux, c'était horrible. Et c'est vrai qu'en Belgique, on dit l'inverse. C'est terrible, ça veut dire que c'est super, c'est top, c'était génial. Et du coup, le pas terrible, ça veut dire so-so.
So-so, comme ça c'est ton
comme
prénom.
So-so.
Ouais, ça c'est son surnom, So-so, Solène et So-so. Voilà, donc pour résumer ça, en France, on a c'est terrible. Ce qui veut dire quelque chose est terrible, c'est terrible. Mais tu peux dire aussi c'est pas terrible. Mais au lieu de vouloir dire
le contraire.
Au lieu d'être le contraire, ça veut dire c'est terrible. Plus ou moins. C'est pas terrible et c'est terrible. Mais en Belgique, ça veut dire génial. That's weird, isn't it?
I have
Non, pas du vin ce soir.
I have one for you guys.
Yes, and Solène has one, and she didn't tell me what it was, so she's going to surprise us. I put her on the spot earlier, and she's like, oh no, expression, oh, I have to think about this. So, you had 45 minutes.
Oh.
No, you had 45 minutes.
Oui, c'est ça, exactement.
Et t'as trouvé quoi?
En fait, j'ai trouvé une expression sympa avec un mot et un truc qu'on mange tous les jours, le fromage. Donc voilà, j'avais envie d'utiliser le mot fromage. Et donc, c'était « N'en fais pas tout un fromage ». Est-ce que vous la connaissez, celle-là? « N'en fais pas tout un fromage ». Tu la connais, toi?
N'en fais pas.
N'en fais pas tout un fromage. Tout un fromage.
I'll put it on the screen now if you want to look in the chat, guys. N'en fais pas tout un fromage. See, I don't like idioms because you can't guess what they mean. But I'm gonna be too logical,
okay.
And I'm gonna say, don't. Actually, is this connected with non? No, it's not. Okay, does it mean don't mess it up?
No.
Oh, okay.
It means don't make a big deal out of it. Je sais pas pourquoi.
Ah, ok.
Mais c'est assez drôle de l'utiliser du coup parce qu'il y a le mot fromage dedans qui est très en relation avec la culture française.
Voilà. Ouais, c'est parfait. Elle est parfaite pour cette question. Ouais. Et alors, donc, c'est don't make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ok.
Don't make a big deal.
Est-ce qu'il y a un moyen plus courant de dire la même chose? Moins idiomatique?
Peut-être tu pourrais dire c'est pas grave, c'est pas grave.
Ouais,
ne
t'inquiète pas.
Ne
t'en fais pas.
Ne t'en fais pas.
Ouais,
c'est ça.
Ok, ça va confondre des choses. David is here. Salut David. Did you hear us talk about your question at the beginning? You were the first one. What accent within Metropolitan France do you struggle with the most? Funny you say that. I don't have a lot of exposure to different accents because I spent 1 month in Paris and then I came here and I've been here for 5 years. So,
oui, mais l'accent du Sud, hein.
So, j'allais dire justement that the accent down here is pretty difficult if you've been learning just standard French. So it's only because, the plumbers will come round, or you'll go on a day trip, or you'll go to the bakery and there'll be proper southerners who live here. Et ils ont l'accent du midi. L'accent du midi, on dit.
Oui, l'accent du midi, ouais.
Et, and that's the name of the southern accent. And it's really particular. And it's that's pretty difficult. But because I live here, it's more manageable. But I'd say if I hear someone from Quebec speak,
oh, oui.
I'm pretty lost. But that's
nous aussi, hein.
Yeah, vous aussi. But that's pretty difficult. Pas de souci, David. Is it important to know some of these expressions?
No.
il veut dire les idiomes, les idiomatiques.
Non, c'est pas essentiel.
So, ouais. Pour moi, well, you asked the question in English, so I'll say it in English. For me, and this is a really good thing actually, so many French learners, they spend a lot of time, and on the surface there's no harm in this, they spend a lot of time reading accounts on places like Instagram or whatever that post a lovely idiomatic expression every day. And on the surface there's nothing wrong with it, right? You should give yourself input. But if that is not supported by a strong foundation of study, which is moving you forward in a direction that is allowing you to speak better, then I think it's a bad use of time, honestly. And because I know how addictive social media is, you can easily just scroll like, and you can maybe say that's a lovely expression. And you can find a lot of lovely things. But if your goal is to be speaking and being communicative, I don't think you should really worry about those. Now, I do dislike that I know so few by heart. I do. But I'm grateful that I prioritize other things to get to where I am. Because I had to pick one. And I just wasn't memorizing them. If you scroll down far enough on my Instagram, like a few years ago, I started posting these... sucrer les fraises, non?
Oui.
Sucrer les fraises, passer du coq à l'âne.
Ouais.
Tu vois? So I do remember a couple, but I never ever use them unless we talk about them like this.
Yeah. Par exemple, en ce moment, il fait un froid de canard. Est-ce que vous connaissez cette expression? Tu la connais, toi?
Maintenant que tu le redis, ouais.
Ça, c'est un peu plus courant, peut-être. C'est quand il fait très froid, on a la peau comme la chair de poule en fait. La chair de poule, ouais. Et ça caille. On dit que ça caille et qu'il fait un froid de canard. Donc c'est maintenant, on a froid. Ouais, il fait un temps très très moche et très froid ce week-end. En fait, depuis 2-3 jours. 2-3 jours. Is there any other questions in here, or should we go to one on my list? Raoul, please let me contribute. You're blocked financially. That sucks. I didn't know that was the case. Let me think about that, and I'll figure something out. Maybe Selene can do some talking while I do some reading. No way. No, it's fine. I won't leave you stranded. You know, I can just talk while I'm looking. It won't really mean anything, but I'll just keep talking. J'entends froid de canard. Tu l'entends tout le temps, David. Tout le temps. Mais je crois pas que tu vives en France, non? Tu vis aux États-Unis, c'est ça? Donc, comment c'est possible que tu entends cette expression tout le temps? C'est rare. Okay, well, let's have another question on the screen. This one's good to have Selene around for. It's fine for me, but it's not a purely language-based thing. So I think this is you, Maya. If you're still there, is this you? Is it the same Maya? No, spelt differently. Probably different Maya. But she said, do the French like to correct foreigners speaking French? Short answer from my experience. Again, I don't like to generalize. I can only generalize from my experience. Is no. No, we don't know. We don't do. And probably that comes from the fact that they don't have much self-confidence in their language abilities. So they probably think, I wouldn't dare, right? No, I don't know. I think it's more important for us to understand like the context. From my point of view is like I want to understand what the guy in front of me want to say, and I focus on that and don't focus on the. If you cut every time someone in the sentence, then the guy is like not also like feel confident to talk more. So I think for me it's more like the sentence which is important. The overall context. Yeah, so it's a personal thing. Because me spending all this time in the language learning space, and caring so much about
my French and helping others, you sort of learn when is right to correct people and when is not, because like Solène said, it can hurt confidence if you do it too much. And it's very hard because obviously some people would think it's rude, so they wouldn't dare. But then someone else, I had a conversation with my French friend Adele a few weeks ago, and she said to me, she's like, please correct everything. And I said to her, I'm not going to correct everything because technically, you could be making little mistake all the time. So it's a balance, but she's like, no, correct me all the time.
And then you don't have a conversation with someone. If you stop in every sentence.
But this we could maybe read this question differently. Yeah. So I mean, because Maya perhaps wants to be corrected more.
Okay.
So if you want to be corrected more, just really make it clear to the person that you want them to do that. Yeah. But then it's up to them to decide how often they do it. And even then, they still might not, because depending on if the person spends time with foreigners a lot or not, they may be willing to or not. Like, for example, with Solène, like I do ask her to, but I know because her head is not in that same space as me, she doesn't often remember to. So at the end of the day, you have to just keep pushing on. Ask people if you need to, but don't expect to get that correction, right? But I think overall, I would say no, they don't. But that can be a good thing and a bad thing, because you shouldn't obsess too much. That was a good question. I liked seeing that question come in. Is this going to work on here? So, what A-levels did you do? Oh, that was a long time ago. I did biology, geography, IT, and I did an AS level in physics, which went pretty badly, and so I dropped it at AS level. Question theory at work. So what A-levels did you do? Or what A-levels are you doing? I didn't find languages again until I was 26 in Australia. So didn't really need school for that. I just needed an interest and something, and then the circumstances in my environment to trigger an interest and a goal. I can't remember what I'm doing here. So 1 second, guys. I'm just having a look in some settings for something in particular. Oh, I know where it is. I think. Nope, that doesn't work. Add. Tell me what you guys are doing. Qu'est-ce que vous avez fait ce week-end? Essayez de écrire un peu en français. Qu'est-ce que vous avez fait ce week-end?
Maybe we can also tell what we did this weekend. What did you do? What we have done yesterday?
Ouais, c'était le grand échec.
Le grand échec.
The big failure yesterday. On est allé. Voilà, toi tu leur dis.
On est allé essayer de trouver des champignons. On a voulu prendre des cèpes. Des cèpes comestibles, des champignons comestibles. On est allé dans une forêt à côté de Montpellier avec un groupe d'amis, mais on n'a pas trouvé grand-chose. Mais la forêt était très belle.
C'est vrai.
Ouais.
C'est vrai. J'avais un peu de gueule de bois. I was a bit hungover after a fun Friday evening, but
oui, parce que ce week-end c'était le dernier week-end où les bars ouvrent en France. Alors on a voulu fêter un peu ça. On n'est pas allé dans un bar finalement. On est allé chez quelqu'un.
Oui.
Mais
maybe I can show an image. Mais qu'est-ce que vous avez fait, les gens? Dites-le nous dans le chat. I'm going to find a picture of a mushroom.
J'ai fait une promenade à vélo d'environ 55 km. Waouh, pas mal.
C'est pas rien ça.
Ouais.
Je vais.
Oui, Mohamed, normalement la vidéo est enregistrée. Il demande si on peut la regarder plus tard.
Qui dit ça? Ah
Mohamed,
ouais. Oui, bien sûr. Ça va immédiatement après la fin de la vidéo en direct, elle passe en mode normal. Oui. Image. Je cherche la possibilité de rajouter une image. C'est où? Image là. Ajouter une source. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I might break something. I'll figure that out for next time. Anyway, wait. Been up in London this weekend around Institut Français, South Ken. Heard lots of French being spoken. Voilà. Il y a pas mal de français. South Ken. Il n'y a pas de champignons comestibles en Australie.
Ah bon? Ils sont seulement vénéneux en Australie?
Vénéneux, ok, j'aime bien ça. Vénéneux. Vénéneux. Le venin.
Le venin.
On dit venom avec un M en anglais.
Ah ouais.
Venomous. J'allais au musée.
Je suis allée au musée, du coup.
Ouais. Je sais. J'étais en train de décider si j'allais corriger ou pas. Voilà. Mais oui. Je vais nager à 6 heures. Waouh.
Incroyable.
Bon courage. Faut aller au lit bientôt, Mike. Faut aller au lit. Aller dormir. Oui. Je vais regarder un match de foot cet après-midi. Ah ouais. Américain. Football américain. Cool.
Nous, c'est déjà le soir. Il est presque 7 heures du soir chez nous. Ouais.
Oh, tu fais l'effort pour bien prononcer,
c'est
bien
ça.
articuler pour les gens. Moi, je fais aucun effort. I want to answer a language question because our friend Jaran, I don't think she's here. Or she's not
Jaran.
chatting.
Where are you?
But notre ami en commun, Jaran, who is Turkish but learned German and is now in France learning French, pretty incredible really, and speaks amazing English, asked a question, particularly with the examples. She gave me an example sentence of c'est impossible plus an action, and she said, how do I know when to use que instead of de and vice versa? And I was thinking about this, and there's sort of different things to say about it, but I think you've got to think, how are you structuring this and why are you structuring it the way you're structuring it? So grammatically, if you want to use que, it's always going to be followed with a subject. And if you're going to use de, it's always going to be followed by a verb in the infinitive. So, for example, c'est impossible, ou c'est impossible, si je fais bien la liaison,
oui,
c'est impossible de dire quel temps il fera la semaine prochaine. So, you see here it's de dire, so it's de plus the infinitive of a verb. There's no subject here, it's just in general, it's impossible to say if we translate to English. And then with que, you know there has to be a subject after que. So, c'est impossible qu'il sache la vérité.
Qu'il sache quel temps il va faire la semaine prochaine.
Oui, I thought about using that. but I didn't want to confuse too much because we're talking about a person, and then the first one, there's no person. So, c'est impossible qu'il sache la vérité. So if you have a subject, you're going to need que, right, grammatically. And if you don't have a subject and you have an infinitive, you need de, right? That's one way to easily decide the two. And also here, after c'est impossible que, you have subjunctive. That's why it's sache. But so whether it's impossible ou c'est facile ou c'est difficile ou c'est incroyable ou c'est étonnant, whatever adjective you want to use, if you're going to have de, it's going to have the infinitive. You're going to have que, it's going to be a subject followed by a conjugation, right? So that's one way. And the other thing I want to say is, until you realise... so what I like to do is, to make sure I can always communicate, I make sure I understand the logic behind what I'm trying to say, so I can make my own sentences. You might then later find that that's not the most French way to say it, right? But that's fine. That comes in time and comes with exposure. So over time, just listen more to how French people say it, because the French say, like in English, I wouldn't say it's impossible that he knows the truth. I wouldn't really say that. I'd say like it's impossible to know if he knows it. It's hard to say because you learn some things just in French and some things just in English, and then it doesn't really work to translate. But the more you listen to the French people, the more you realise the way that the phrases they use to describe something that you might say in English, and it might not be literally the translation of it. So over time, you'll learn to change how you speak. But for me, like, it's very slow. I still say a lot of stuff from English in French, but that's fine. We need to get out of this mindset of thinking, I'll only speak French when I know exactly how the French speak. No. It's just not realistic.
Impossible.
It's not realistic.
C'est impossible que tu parles.
It's not realistic. So that was my answer. I'm sure I could add more to that with more thought, but that's the main things that come to my head. If there's a subject after what you want, after impossible, go with que. And if there's no subject, go with deux, basically. Some more questions here. Hi Alison, beginner, love your videos. I need help with understanding French numbers. Any advice? That's a big one. Again, simple yet maybe frustrating answer. Just takes time. Get exposed to a lot of numbers, put them in context and practice them. It was easier for me because I came to France, had to get a mobile phone number, and then suddenly I was having to type it into websites. I was having to say it. So you just learn it, you just memorize it that way. It's in the context was it's in my day-to-day life. It's still something that's slow for me when I have to say the year, for example. Right now it's easy. It's 2020. But if you want to talk about the past, and you're saying things like 1965 and you have to say 1965, I still have to think about that, even though I sound quite smooth. I still don't want to mess it up. So put things in context. Learn the numbers that are most relevant to you first, because then when you're speaking with your language partners, speaking with the tutors, you're talking to yourself, they're going to come to you easiest because they mean something to you. Don't just drill through the year 1000 to the year 2000. It's just silly. And then apart from that, with the crazinesses of like 70 and 80, sure, maybe draw yourself on that a bit, because it's not a huge list, I would say.
I would like to say something, because I found it funny for me to say my number in foreign...
Your phone number?
My phone number, yeah. In Spanish or in English is impossible. I have to say it in French first and then translate it. It doesn't come first. I don't know if it's the same for you. If you'd be able to you learn your phone number in English or in French?
My French phone number?
Yeah.
En français.
En français. And would you be able to say it in English, for instance?
It would actually be harder.
Yeah, exactly. You have to concentrate. And for me, it's like always when I'm traveling, I have to give my phone number in the foreign language. Impossible. I'm like blank. I don't remember at all. I have to write it down, and then I can speak.
Right. And I'm going to add two things, but do you think though? Because I know what I think. Do you think that the pattern of the phone number is important in how well you remember it? Let me explain what I mean by that. In France, phone numbers have 10 digits.
Yeah.
They read everything in pairs of numbers,
yes.
Apart from if it starts with a 0. So if it's 05, they say 05, right? Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the numbers are in pairs. So if it's 17, in the UK I'd say 17. But they say 17.
Right.
So for me, in my head, there's now this mental separation between how I read phone numbers in French and how I read numbers in in the UK. As soon as that context changes and I haven't got experience in it, I don't know. Like, for example, I was reading my credit card number over the phone to, I think, Apple, because I was buying a new computer. And that was a particularly difficult conversation. But he asked me to give him my card number. And I think automatically... You tell me what they do. Do you do pairs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pair.
So I think I defaulted back to the UK and thought, well, this doesn't obviously look like it's pairs. So I just went individually, and he kind of got a bit lost because in his head he was expecting pairs, and it's really simple. So once you get used to the pattern that numbers follow in different situations, your brain easily separates them. So do you find that you memorized what number was it you did in English? A Swiss one?
Yeah, the French one. For instance, when I went to UK, I had to give mine.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah.
No, it's in pair. Of course, it's in pair. But of course, like for foreigners, when they're like here, the pairs for numbers. For instance, 82. You mean like, what is it, a 4? No, it's 82 indeed.
Yeah.
82.
Yeah.
It's not 422.
Yeah, it's
so it's complicated.
Really complicated. But that's something that's interesting. Like it's you like I say, if it's attached to a context, your mind sort of handles it differently. But when you're just trying to be a learner and just learn all these numbers, it's really hard.
Yeah.
One other thing I was going to say was when you live here, especially, and you don't necessarily know that an issue is going to come up, right? You're just speaking, you're doing something, and then suddenly your brain will go, oh, how do I do that? Whatever. But because you're in a real life situation, like you're at the bank or something, or you're at the doctor, you have to say something.
You stress out.
You just have to pick, right? It's really difficult. You have to pick. So I just thought about, and you might tell me it's fine, but I've questioned it. So when I give my date of birth, do you typically say the 2 digits for the day, 2 digits for the month, and then the year? Do you do 4 digits or do you do 2? So do you say on the phone 86 or 87, or do you say 1986?
1986, je pense. Ouais. Et on dit pas le nombre pour le mois, on dit le janvier, février, mars.
Interesting. See, by default, if I've been on the phone, they ask me for my date of birth.
Par exemple, aujourd'hui, on est le 27 septembre 2020. Voilà. C'est ce qu'on dit.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, but when they ask me to put it, I know they're putting it into a computer. I think in my head, I'll just say.
Ouais, tu peux. Et les gens, ils savent en général les mois.
But this is what I'm getting at. So us as learners, sometimes we block, and we say, what's the right way of saying this?
Yeah.
But actually, in reality, think about how many ways you would accept it if a foreigner said in English something that was a bit less natural, but you completely got it.
Yeah.
And then you should think, well, why am I worrying so much about French? I'm sure they'll get this. So, but it's funny. It's funny. It's this mindset we have as English speakers, particularly. I
think I will go. I will let you.
You're going to go?
I will let you alone.
She's leaving me alone with
20 spectators.
20 currently people. Will you watch? It's going to go down to 10 as soon as you leave.
No, call me if they go down. Don't leave, huh?
On est 20.
There's plenty of questions coming on.
On est 20, dont 10 sont là pour toi.
No, come on.
No.
They're all for you.
Okay.
Bah,
au revoir,
nice to see you guys.
À bientôt.
See you next time.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Okay. Let's catch up in the chat. Elle veut la bière. Elle a fini. Non. Terminé. Practice the multiplication table in French. Oof, that sounds horrible. Let me catch up with the chat. The SNCF chains with 5-digit numbers are tough when they are announced at the station. Oh my goodness, yes. They go, this has taken me years because I don't go on the train very often. So you imagine if you piled it into a month, you'd probably get it. But it's taken me 5 years of trying to know exactly what the woman says on the tannoy at the train station. It says, le train en provenance de Marseille-Saint-Charles et en destination de Montpellier-Saint-Roch entre dans la gare. And that's taken me a long time to get that whole phrase in there. But yeah, you're right. When she says le service, I think she says le train ou le service numéro 52,100. It's horrible. Yeah, don't give me 5-digit numbers. That's next level. It's hard to learn English. Yeah, but in English we would say maybe you guys in the States say it differently to me in the UK. I would think if it's a 5-digit train number in the UK, we might say it all 5 digits individually, like 1, 5, 2, 3. We don't say 1,000 whatever. What do you guys do in the States? Ah, super, Laurie. You've learned thanks to another question. Bye, Raoul. Oh, who's leaving? Someone's saying bye. Yes. Well, whoever's leaving, bye. Thank you so much for coming and supporting the channel. Really, really appreciate it. 5,000 people. This is kind of, 1,000 to us. I can't really picture 1,000 people. It's for someone who doesn't seek the limelight, to have that many people is pretty amazing. You wouldn't catch me doing this in a room full of 1,000 people. No way. Right, where's another question? Shall we have another question? Oh yes, sorry Caleb, thank you for posting your question again. I did see it earlier, but we were talking about something else. Thank you very much for copy pasting. I suggest you do that if you do not see me doing that. Ah, of course. You're saying bye to Solène. I already forgot she left, guys. I'm trying to manage so many things. Yes, bye, Solène. Do you suggest Paris for learning French, or do you think that a small city could be a better choice? I think that depends on you. How do you like to learn? What do you like about the city? What do you like about the place that you're going to learn? Put yourself in a place where you're going to be comfortable. Some people don't like big cities. It makes them a bit more stressed knowing that they've got so much distance to travel between point A and point B, me included. So just add that over days and you think, I've got to get to my French school, or I've got to, figure this big city out, not to mention so many cars on the road, so many people. Are you okay with that? Do you like the energy of it, or is it something that stresses you out? Think about how your learning French would fit into that. Montpellier has tons of schools. It's a much, much, much smaller city than Paris, but in my opinion has everything needed in a city. But it's all walkable or get on the tram. So I'm biased towards Montpellier, but that's my opinion. So you have to decide for yourself, what do you like in a place that's gonna teach you French? What are you looking for? Are you looking for a school, or are you looking to do an immersion program? Are you thinking I'm just going to wing it and learn by myself while soaking up the culture? What do you want? What do you like about a place? David said, how much do you read in French? Yeah, j'ai vu que tu as posé la question en français. No, I'm pretty bad, and I pick everything up mainly from little things, and then I dive deep into them. I am currently reading this book, which is called L'homme qui voulait être heureux. It's about a guy who, a French guy who is on holiday in Bali, and he hears about this shaman or spiritual healer, and he's so réputé, bien connu, that he thinks I have to go and see him. And he kind of thinks he's just going to go for some advice, but it turns out that he actually has deeper seated happiness issues. He's not happy in his life, and this guy helps him through it. And I just love personal development. I love being self-aware and solving problems by looking at the whole person, rather than just, let's say, talk about French, just looking at how many words you know. Hence why I'm a coach and not a teacher. And so anything that's personal development related, happiness related, interests me. So I'm pushing through with this. I'm probably reading a few pages a week, but it's very fascinating, and I recommend that. But as a result of not reading too much, I don't know the passé simple People ask me about, do you learn the passé simple? And I say, no, never bothered to learn it, because when I was in my lower stages of French, it was such a challenge to obviously, like you guys know, learn all the tenses. Like, how do I learn all the tenses, conjugations, etc.? So that was one of the earliest things I learned not to bother with, because it just doesn't come up unless you're reading it in literature. And even then, now that I pick up this book, you do realize how easy to recognize the verb it is by the conjugation. Okay, the conjugation looks different, but you can tell the verb, and that means you can read it. So, and I'm never going to ever use the passé simple, so I'm not going to bother with that. So no, I don't read enough. I keep saying to myself I'm going to get more on L'Équipe and read more of the sports news on there instead of BBC, but old habits die hard. Now boarding train 4567. Yes, Alison, but do you say 4567 or do you say 4567? I think you're saying 4567. Yeah, Montpellier is fantastic for everything, but French, there's so many language schools here. If that's how you want to learn. I came here and I had already a B1 in knowledge, and I needed to push myself to speak, and I just sort of ended up here. I didn't know about its reputation for learning French at the time. Yeah, exactly, Mohammed. You learn English all your life, so it's really impossible to compare. I don't like when people ask me, is this hard? Is this harder? Is it a hard language? I say, well, it's my first foreign language, so I think any foreign language I learned, I would have no clue. I'd have nothing to compare it to, so I will always say it's hard. I haven't been to Versailles. No, I did a month in Paris, and I got to le Château Fontainebleau. But no, never got to Versailles. And then I don't really enjoy going up to Paris because it's a big busy city. Just the thought of it stresses me out. I've got such a nice life here in Montpellier. Un si grand soleil. Ah, c'est vrai ça. Do you think in French? I do, but I don't really realise I'm doing it. I thought when I was earlier in my journey, I thought, oh, is this going to be a moment? I'm going to dream in French and I'm going to think in French, but I never really had one of those déclic. I never had that really click moment for me. But now I realise, because I do speak plenty of French. Avec Solène, je parle pas mal de français, et donc quand j'essaie de former une nouvelle phrase, je suis capable de former cette phrase en français sans avoir à traduire de l'anglais. But some of the time, I'm going to have to rely on English, because it's a particularly complicated phrase. I need to have something as a base to start from, so I go with English. If you can't immerse yourself in a place where French is spoken, how would you learn? How did you learn French? How did you learn French, I imagine you mean. So you've got to immerse yourself as much as possible. You might not be able to physically immerse yourself, but the fact is, I'm a bit of a hermit. I live here, and so much of my time is spent at home. I love my own time, my thinking time. I'm working on the coaching business, the YouTube channel. I spend time with Solène. I spend time with friends at the weekend. But a lot of the time, I spend here. So I'm not really immersed as someone would be if they work in an office with French people. And yet, I still was managing to learn French every day when I've been here. And I would say the biggest reason is because it was what drove me to come here. I wanted to do it. Now, of course, things are easier because I could, especially at the beginning, go to language exchanges in town, to the bars when they were hosted. But a lot more of what gets you further in French is your attitude and your willingness to keep speaking French when it's not easy. So that you don't need to be in France for. You need to just take regular conversations, put yourself in situations where you're going to be speaking French, make sure you're reading as much French as possible. Yes, I know I said I didn't read enough French, but I had the benefit of being here and everything's written in French. When you're not in France, you have to make that environment for yourself. But the more you can do that, you are immersing yourself in the language. Think of it differently. It might be a different way to look at it, but it's so true. Do French people understand 80 et 90? Yeah, I'm sure they're aware of it. Sure, if you said it to someone, they're not going to say, unless there's someone who really doesn't spend any time thinking about another culture at all. They're going to get it. Yeah, they do make a lot more sense. I listen to podcasts in French about 2 hours in. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, you still translate in your head because you've got that as a base and you don't live in the country. So if you feel happy with the pace of how you're learning right now, then be good with that, because a lot of the time we're looking for the next thing which is going to accelerate our growth. And the thing is, that's good. I think you should always try and be better, but sometimes what you're doing is exactly what you need to be doing. So and that comes with that is an accept. You have to be prepared to accept that you're learning as quickly as you're going to, and that's great. You can only immerse yourself so much. Should we have another question that I've got here on my list? Otherwise, I will not get through them all. Simple one here. Well, sort of simple. Je parle un petit peu français on Instagram. She asked me, depuis combien de temps vis-tu en France? La réponse à cette question, c'est 5 ans. Ça fait 5 ans que je suis en France. Et qu'est-ce qui t'énerve le plus chez les Français? Je n'aime pas trop cette question. Parce que, comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure, je n'aime pas trop généraliser ni utiliser les stéréotypes. En fait, quand j'étais plus jeune, je passais beaucoup de temps à être énervé, à m'énerver contre les gens. Et maintenant, je préfère me concentrer sur être heureux et voir le côté positif. Mais qu'est-ce qui m'énerve le plus chez les Français? Je vais répondre à cette question en parlant un peu de l'administration française, parce que c'est toujours une expérience stressante, plein de stress, quand il faut compléter une tâche administrative ici en France, genre aller à la préfecture pour parler à quelqu'un par rapport à ton visa, ta carte de séjour. En général, les personnes là-bas ne font pas grand-chose pour t'aider. Et ça, c'est frustrant parce que toi, en tant qu'étranger, tu n'as pas toutes les solutions. Tu es en train de lire les sites web en français, qui est déjà difficile. Et en plus de ça, les sites administratifs utilisent beaucoup de mots techniques et juridiques. Donc ce serait cool si les gens à la préfecture étaient plus amicaux, étaient là pour t'aider. Mais souvent, je trouve qu'ils préféreraient ne pas être là et te parler. Mais c'est la réalité. Après, il y a aussi les responsables clients. Comment dire ça? Oui, les responsables clients, je crois. Les gens qui t'aident au téléphone quand tu as un problème avec ton électricité ou ton mobile, ton téléphone, tu vois. Quand tu as quelqu'un au téléphone, souvent, encore une fois, il te donne les conseils que tu as déjà trouvés en ligne et ils sont les moins patients entre tous les Français que j'ai rencontrés. Donc ça c'est difficile pour nous, les étrangers, et ça m'énerve. Voilà. Mais à part ça, tout le monde est sympa. Voilà, with today's internet access, well, it's much easier to remotely immerse. Exactly, you just kind of need to think of it differently, rather than falling into the trap of thinking, damn it, I wish I was in France, my French is going to suffer because of that. Rather than focusing on that, if that is your reality, accept it. So that frees your mind up to look into all the other solutions. And once you get that, you're free to go. Like Curtis and David are showing us. Compte-t-il rester en France pour toujours? Pour toujours, on ne sait jamais. J'aime bien voyager, j'aime bien découvrir les autres pays. Mais pour l'instant, je suis en plein stade. Je suis très occupé, je suis très pris par mon business de coaching. Et je gagne pas beaucoup d'argent en ce moment. Donc, c'est pas trop possible de bouger. Et aussi, Solène adore être en France en ce moment. Mais ce qui est sûr, c'est que je ne vais pas rentrer en Angleterre. Ça ne m'intéresse plus. Mais avec le Brexit, on va voir. Normalement, je serai libre de rester ici. Normalement. Mais on va voir. Merci Curtis, félicitations, c'est super. I'll just repeat to anyone who joined us earlier. Recently I launched a membership program here on the channel, which is for those of you who want to support me monthly on an ongoing basis, whether you would like the rewards or not. The rewards at the moment are early access to all my regular Sunday videos. Obviously not if they're live, because it's live. And monthly live streams exclusive for members. Once a month, talk about a different topic and I take your questions. We're a close-knit group at the moment. And also shout-outs in all of my regular videos. So if you want to support me monthly for $4.99 a month, you can head down to the join button down below, or rejoindre if you're interested. And on top of that, YouTube have allowed me to activate this thing called a super chat recently. So I feel very special. Only the big YouTubers get that. Except me, I seem to have found a crack in the system. And now you can support me with a donation through super chat if your country allows it. And I know that Raoul, you would like to participate through PayPal, which is very generous of you. But right now, I don't know how to set that up on the fly, but I will have that for next time. Aimerais-tu apprendre une nouvelle langue étrangère? Si oui, laquelle? Oui, bien sûr. Bien sûr. Pour l'instant, je trouve pas le temps le temps à consacrer à l'apprentissage en plein temps, à l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue. Mais j'ai déjà commencé l'espagnol, donc je comprends pas mal d'espagnol. Et en fait, beaucoup de langues m'intéressent, tu vois. Quand je regarde des séries, je me concentre beaucoup sur les mots, sur les accents, sur la prononciation. J'essaie de voir les similarités entre cette langue et mes langues. C'est très intéressant. Récemment, Solène et moi, on regarde une série danoise qui s'appelle The Rain, un titre en anglais, The Rain, mais c'est cool. Je remarque beaucoup de similarités entre le danois et l'anglais, mais pour l'instant, j'ai pas prévu de commencer de me mettre à une nouvelle langue à fond. C'est trop de temps. Thank you very much for subscribing. Welcome to the channel. All right. How long are we going? 1 hour 20. Oh, it's so easy for me to talk. At least being on YouTube, it's a good thing that I talk a lot. So, what other questions do I have here? So, I had a question from, I think it's Jaime 20 on Instagram. Merci beaucoup, David. Ciao, ciao. À bientôt. Merci d'être venu. C'est très gentil. Vous êtes très sympa. We in France. Salut, Diane. Bonsoir. Comment ça va? I haven't finished. Oh, j'ai pas encore fini ma bière, tout le monde. Right. So let's answer this question. I had a great question from Jaime on Instagram. So some of you might not know, because perhaps I don't talk about it enough on YouTube. I don't know, because I post in a few different places. So as well as being a YouTuber, which sounds weird to say, but that's what I am, I am also a language coach. I specifically help English speakers who are struggling to speak with confidence. I help show them how to focus on the right things to make sure that they're getting confidence from their spoken French and not learning stuff which is holding them back or just not moving them forward. There's a lot of different factors to this, and obviously I'm best placed to do it because I am an English person and I have learned French. So on top of that, I can also offer great help for expats or immigrants in France and French-speaking countries, because it affects everyday life. So he asked, what is needed to be a coach in languages? This is an interesting question because the term language coach is kind of fairly new, and I see a few other coaches out there, and they focus on different things. They teach different things, but I think a coach differs from teacher in terms of how we accompany you in your learning. We want you to become more independent rather than just give you the information and help you learn it. We aid you in the other aspects of it. So for my definition of coach, I think, well, for my definition of coach, you need to understand what it is to learn the language that the student is learning, not just any language, because there's specific things that differ in the learning of other languages. Although a lot of things cross over, so not just the experience because of the words and the grammar of the language, although that very much does help, but being able to really resonate with the student on what they're going through and how to approach the challenge for their specific country and language. Obviously with me it's French. That's really, really important. I feel like to be a coach, a lot of what I do crosses over with like life coaching, because I don't really see it as you got French and then you got the rest of your life. To really succeed, and the people I work with who are really struggling with their confidence and their stress levels and their frustration with French, you need to learn how to handle your mind, and it's a personal journey. So personality traits such as like compassion, being able to be patient, being a good listener, really, really, really helpful in being a coach. In terms of qualifications, I don't know if there is one right now because it's such a new thing. I think with the internet now, I'm a big fan of, because you can prove your experience in so many different ways. As long as you can prove to people that you know what you're talking about, that gives them a chance to trust you. And once people trust you, they want to work with you. So in terms of qualifications, I don't think there is one, but I'm not sure it's so necessary. I think the qualification here, rather than being a bit of paper, is experience, basically. So what's needed to be a coach in languages? Experience, compassion, patience, knowledge of the language, knowledge of what the student's going through. So if that sounds interesting to you, by the way, send me a message on Instagram or on YouTube or by email, and tell me about your French story, and we'll talk and see if coaching could be of help to you. Even if you've taken language lessons before, maybe you need something different. What did you find best for helping improve your accent? So, first way to answer your question is with a question. Do you mean pronunciation or do you mean accent? Because they are actually different. But for my accent, I don't have a huge accent when I speak French, huge British accent when I speak French, but it is there sometimes. And my pronunciation is very good, I think. But I've learned to be quite happy with my limitations, because I think I really appreciate being able to still sound like a foreigner. It's who I am. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't necessarily... I think if you really passionately want to sound exactly like a French person, that's fantastic, and you should go for that. But what you shouldn't let it do is get in the way of you communicating. If you're learning to communicate and you're happy with that, but you also want to get your pronunciation up there, and therefore have, well, maybe not therefore, but have a perfect pronunciation and then pronounce stuff exactly like French people and have their accent, you do that. Find a specialist, I would say. Find a specialist and do a lot of copying. I think a lot of that is based on your natural ability, and the rest is work. And some people have a higher level of natural ability than others. Like me, I don't have the best pronunciation, but it's pretty good. And that came to me quite easily compared with other people. What is the difference between falloir and savoir? Do you mean falloir and devoir and savoir et connaître? Because falloir is more when you need something or something needs to be done, and savoir is to know. So let me know if I've understood your question correctly. Bonsoir, je suis heureux que vous explique la langue française facile à moi de comprendre. Je viens de Kenya, en Afrique de l'Est, et vous êtes mon meilleur prof. Wow! Merci Chris, c'est très très sympa. Continue comme ça. Yeah. Does she sound like she's English though? Like, is it a really strong accent? Because that's kind I always find that quite funny, and I think, how can you not have worked on that more? You know, but again, it's personal preference. Right. Right. Another question. I have 2 more from Instagram, and then that's it. So this one came in from Ben, and he said, what was my first experience learning French and what were my first impressions? I want to know, actually, I'm not asking you guys enough about what you think of these questions. So do say in the chat what are your answers to these questions, if you can adapt them to yourself. First experience learning French and what were your first impressions? So I'm going to answer this not from the perspective of, not from when I first learned French, because I don't really count my school years. It was just school and it was all a blur and no one really wanted to be at school. Definitely didn't want to be in language class. So I'll approach this from when I was 26 and I was in Australia and I started picking up French again. My first experience learning it was trying to flirt with a girl on the coach on a weekend trip to the north of Australia. And I realised that she was French and she was single and she was pretty, so I wanted to flirt with her. And so I just tried to make silly jokes using words like sacré bleu and zut alors. And I knew that they weren't really used, but I knew that they might make her laugh. So that's you know, I was just trying to make her laugh. But then first experience learning French, well, I decided probably like a couple of weeks later, I found this thing called Duolingo. And I was like, oh, Duolingo, it's free and it makes you learn languages and it's fun, it's colourful and it has points. Why not? And I got on that and that was addictive and I loved breaking down the sentences and figuring stuff out. Little did I know that a couple of years later I'd be telling people not to use it because it's not going to get you very far. But and that's a very divisive comment, but it needs more context, basically, which I won't go into now, but basically it was perfect for me at the beginning. It got me interested, it got me excited, and so my first impression of that was, wow, language learning isn't hard. This could actually work, which is how you need to think of it. You need that early stage where you think, oh, I can do this. You're not really thinking too far ahead. This is all working. This is fantastic, right? You need that to encourage you to keep going at the beginning. Obviously, it has to get harder. So my first impressions were, wow, I could do this, I guess. But it's hard to put myself back in that exact position. One of my earliest memories is a few weeks later, because I was around lots of French people in Australia. This is the thing. So they were just talking. So I guess I was listening, half listening and half in my own world. But I heard them say je t'attends, and for some reason it clicked at that moment. Je t'attends. They're saying I'm waiting for you, and they put the te for you before the verb, and that was the first time I heard that, and I was like, oh wow. And that probably set off a series of chain of events in my head when I realised they did that for a lot of things. And then I think that was when I went to sort of another level. So I remember sitting in this chair in the lounge and getting quite excited that I understood that. And it was different to English, because it's one thing translating from English and getting the right thing. But when you get something that's particularly French, that feels really good, in my opinion anyway. How can the teacher tell the difference between je suis from suivre and je suis from être? Very good question. Basically, it's just context. So if you say je suis le football, right? You know, the other person knows that you're not football, right? But they know that you must mean I'm following football. I follow football, right? If you say, I suppose, je suis enseignant. No. So that's maybe another good one. See, if you say je suis enseignant, right? You know you're saying I am a teacher, because you're not saying l'enseignant. If you say je suis l'enseignant, it's a bit of a weird sentence, but grammatically, because you've got le, L apostrophe, l'enseignant, you know that they're saying follow, because in French, when you say I'm a teacher, you don't say un, you just say enseignant. So je suis enseignant, right? I'm already seeing grammatical holes in what I've just said, but that's basically it. So, and also you can say like I follow you, so it's je te suis. Je te suis, again there, it wouldn't make sense, so that would be I am you. Je suis toi, je te suis. So je te suis is going to be always I follow you, I'm following you. So apart from that, it's just context in a specific sentence. I hope that made sense. I had another language question here, geeky language question from Jasmine. She said, how much grammar and tenses do we need for daily life conversations? So I know the simple answer might be to say, hey, you need 4 tenses. Go learn all these 4 tenses. But is that really realistic? What does that mean if I say go learn 4 tenses? Does it mean learn every single conjugation for every single verb in all 4 of those tenses, and then you can say you're good to go for everyday life? Now, I'm not suggesting that, Jasmine, you are asking me that, but it's important to think about what you actually mean behind the question. So if I just said to you 4 tenses, that wouldn't help you much either. So the way I suggest approaching this is think about like, what is your daily life? What do you need in your daily life? Now, most of us, we're going to need to talk about plenty of things in present tense, future tense, and past tense, right? So some people are going to be happy being pretty good in present tense in a range of verbs that they know come up a lot. They're going to need to know about the future. They don't need to necessarily know futur simple and futur and passé composé and futur proche. They'll just pick one, right? And then they'll go with it, and then they'll use that every day. They'll have a good life, right? They'll get by everywhere with that. And then one of the past tenses, so either imparfait or passé composé. After that, so that basically, I could say you need 3. Let's say you need 3 for living everyday life, getting everything you need done in your French-speaking country, because I know you live in Switzerland. But after that, you want to actually probably feel a bit more accomplished, right? So you're going to want to learn a few more tenses. You're going to want to learn the difference between passé composé and imparfait. And you're going to probably want both futur simple and futur proche. But the difficult thing is, as a learner, they're big topics. And the difference between passé composé and imparfait is quite broad. You can sit down for a day and try and memorize the differences, but as soon as you have a real conversation, you realize you have all this room to doubt, and also you haven't actually retained something until you've actually repeated it enough. So there's all this room to make mistakes. So I come back to the need to get comfortable making mistakes. So I would say probably those present, passé composé, imparfait, futur proche, futur simple, 5, get comfortable in them. But then you're going to find, well, I find people using the subjunctive, so should I learn the subjunctive? Well, it comes down to you. Like, do you feel comfortable enough with those other tenses? Have you managed to decide what is more important to you? Because you can't spread yourself too thin. Don't try and learn too many things at once. Subjunctive comes up a lot in daily life, so you might think, well, I want to know subjunctive. Fine, go learn the subjunctive. What is important to you? What do you need for your everyday life? Do you just want to get by, or do you want to feel like you're speaking higher quality French in those subtle moments, in those little distinctions? What do you want to learn? Okay. So I hope that was useful. You guys have gone very quiet in the chat. We are 22. This is impressive. How are you doing? I'm getting pretty hungry. Je commence à avoir faim, les gens. Faut que j'aille manger mon dîner bientôt. Jason is here. So many words sound alike, like signe et signe. What tips can you give for listening comprehension? I actually answered a listening thing earlier, but that was different to what you're saying. You've been nice and specific. Thank you, Jason. Like signe et signe. I mean, if you're going to do listening and you're going to hear words like that, you're going to hear stuff in context, right? Usually you're going to hear a news report, or you're going to hear a song, or you're going to hear a podcast. So, I mean, I think I've probably used, I know you just used an example, but I probably used the word signe for, I believe that's a swan, right? Used that about 5 times in my 5 years here. So, 1, prioritize, know what you're listening and why you're listening to it. Context will help you a hell of a lot. You know from the conversation that you're talking about, is someone going to be talking about a swan, or are they going to be talking about a sign? So don't worry too much about that. Ask a lot of questions. You're in this for the long haul. If you watch many of my videos, you know I say a lot, c'est un marathon, pas un sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So just get very comfortable asking a lot of questions, and be okay with that, because you're going to need to. Sometimes you're not going to understand what they're talking about, because you've understood that they've said one word that sounds the same as another word, and because you didn't get enough from the rest of the conversation, the rest of the sentence, you need to ask. But as you get better, and as you hear more of the same sentence, and your level gets higher, you'll be able to distinguish between those things from the context, and then obviously you'll hear the specific word enough, and that word will come automatically, right? But context is really your one of your best friends. But again, listening comprehension depends where you live. Do you live in a French-speaking country? Are you around the language a lot? How do you like to listen? I personally don't love listening to music for learning. I'm starting to enjoy it now because I can understand more, but at the beginning I hated it because I didn't understand anything, and it was a real chore. Some people love listening to music and learning French. Don't do something because you think that's the tried and tested route. If you don't get anything out of it, of course, some things are going to be difficult. You have to push through, but you should have some should have some level of enjoyment there. So make sure you enjoy it. Signe et signe. Yeah, the worst one is 100. No, people talk about that. 100 is 100. 100 is without. 100 is blood. 100 is 100. There's more than that. There's more than 3 or 4. Have you heard of tirer à quatre épingles? I have heard that. Isn't that... Oh, I'm going to mess this one up. Isn't that when you dress really smartly? I think that's something else maybe, but that's what's coming to me first of all. Tirer à quatre épingles. No? Let me know. Oh, I'm getting hungry, guys. I'm getting hungry. Is anyone here in France? Diane's here. She's still here. She's in France. Is anyone else here in France? Or are you all outside of la francophonie? Yes. I feel like I don't talk enough about my coaching with you guys. But I'm currently running a group program with people and it is very fun. What are your thoughts on flashcards, Pimsleur, Duolingo, methods of learning? Alison, it was you earlier that said you were a beginner, right? Boston ici, right? Flashcards, Pimsleur and Duolingo. I've never followed Pimsleur, but I have the Solène, who you saw earlier, if you were here. Yes, you were here earlier. She bought me the How to Learn a Foreign Language written by Pimsleur after his death. But it was written with a lot of his notes and methodologies put into one book. And that was fascinating. I really approve of what he's saying about getting used to the pronunciation and the sound system of a language first, and doing it that way. But it's a very practical approach, which I appreciate, but I haven't followed it for a language yet. Merci beaucoup, Angèle. C'est très sympa. 5000, ouais, c'est énorme. J'arrive pas à imaginer que 5000 personnes s'abonnent à ma chaîne. The program is excellent. Which one? The Pimsleur one. Yeah, Pimsleur. But I mean, flashcards can really work. And I come back to the word context. Put stuff in context as much as possible, and they will be so much more beneficial rather than putting down one word or even two words. But the more you customize flashcards to make them as good for you as possible, the more you're going to attach to the activity, and therefore the more you're going to concentrate on it. A lot of the time, when I used to do flashcards, I was thinking this is a bit of a chore, and I'm just doing this for the sake of it. As soon as you feel like it's a bit of a chore, you're not going to be concentrating as much as if you're enjoying it. So make flashcards work for you, and also make them yourself. Don't let other systems make them for you. Even on places like Memrise, where they have all these nice colourful interactive flashcards, that helps more than a boring ugly interface. In my opinion, Anki, which is one of the most powerful space repetition systems out there, is just so ugly that I just can't enjoy it. But Memrise, they are more colourful. I like that. However, you'll get more out of it if you create your own flashcards, because then you only put in what you want to learn, and so you're much more efficient with your time. Wait, been to London. People saying London and Paris have a lot of similarities. Can you talk about them a bit? That's a big question. I mean, London and Paris, both huge cities, both metropolises, and so you have a lot more. Oh, I'm not the right person to talk about that question. I'm going to do a very, very terrible job at it. I apologise. I mean, in what context? In what area? Do you talk about the people, the fashion, the food, the pollution, the transport, the job opportunities? What do you want to know in particular? Je vous ai posé une question auparavant. Comment puis-je améliorer mon français? C'est tellement important que je sache la technique. I mean, Chris, ça dépend beaucoup de toi. Qu'est-ce qui te plaît? Qu'est-ce que tu as déjà essayé? Qu'est-ce que tu fais en ce moment pour t'améliorer? Dis-moi un peu plus. Hein. Parle-moi un peu plus, s'il te plaît. Est-ce que tu parles déjà aux gens? Est-ce que tu parles français déjà? Ou est-ce que tu écris très bien? Donc, je dirais que tu apprends depuis un moment. Yeah, absolutely, Alison. I love writing. I don't do it enough because actually I find that I can type, and even when I type, I think about the things a lot, and I don't copy paste when I want to learn something. If I need to repeat it, I just write it again. And actually, looking for the accents on an English keyboard takes time to input them, which can be annoying if you're French and you just want to do something quickly. But actually, for me, even now, I refuse to have a AZERTY like a French keyboard, so I just look for the accents, and that adds time. The more time you are in the words, just those extra seconds, they contribute to it. So I totally agree. The more time you spend with the words, and writing can really help with that. There's lots of things. Jason says, what do you think is the biggest challenge to go from A2 level to B1 level? Oof. Not sure. Because I never really knew when I went from A2 to B1. Probably that you start using more of a variety of phrases to express yourself. Starts to get a bit more serious. Bye, Angel. Sorry, Vidush. Okay, so I'll try and answer one or two more, and then I'm going to head off. Maybe let's say at 8 o'clock. So dans 13 minutes, je vais finir la vidéo. I have been having problems with de ou a after verbs. Is there a way to memorize it easily? I haven't found one. Just got to remember them. And remember them, perhaps every time you learn a verb, learn it with its preposition. If you want to learn infinitives of verbs, maybe don't try and learn them just like avoir, être, essayer, faire, venir, revenir, rentrer, retourner, parler, dire, all this. Learn them with their prepositions perhaps. Maybe that's easier. Have you tried that? So like essayer. When you're learning essayer, learn it with de, because essayer is always followed by de. Essayer de. So then you know in your head, it's just always de. It's not, I have to learn essayer and then essayer de. No, just learn essayer de and then practice. But I did 2 videos on my channel, one on common verbs followed by de and one on common verbs followed by a. So go and find those on my channel, and that will give you a good starting point of what verbs to learn for that. But yeah, Jason, sorry, the question wasn't probably the best answer to your question. But what are you finding the biggest challenge between A2 and B1? Because it sounds like you're there right now. So what are you finding most tricky? And maybe I can bounce off of that. Did I get all of my questions from Instagram answered? Did I answer this one? Short answer to this one anyway. Do you think listening comprehension en français is harder than other Romance languages? I would have to study other Romance languages to tell you the answer to that. I mean, I've heard lots of Romance languages around because I'm interested in languages, so I'll watch movies with them or I'll hear them in the street and I'll pay attention more than the next person. Mais honnêtement, j'ai pas appris une autre langue jusqu'au même niveau que le français. Donc, je peux pas vraiment répondre à cette question. I would probably say Depends on you. And I know people say Spanish is really fast, and it does sound really fast. So I guess that Spanish would be really difficult, but I'm not sure. Listening comprehension is a challenge. Okay, so you're talking particularly about listening. Yeah, because I suppose you're starting to move out of the learner's listening exercises and into more real life things, right? Yeah. Sounds horrible, but keep it up. Again, you've got to have more exposure. So actually, going back now, I would probably have made myself just listen to way more stuff, even without the intention of using it as a listening exercise. I would have my listening practice, and I would then listen to as much stuff in my daily life in French, because I don't think passive listening is a way. I don't believe you can just have something on in the kitchen and just learn French like that. But I think if you have that as a supplement to what you're already doing for listening, I think that's really beneficial over time. You've got to give it time to really sink in and to work. Do I invest much time into my videos? I do about, probably per video, from the planning to the filming to the editing to the scheduling to the releasing for the members and then releasing for the public and promoting it on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I do probably about 10 hours every week, and that's because I've got into a routine now, but I would really love to get that down. Probably about 10 hours. No, I mean Spanish is very close. Like, I picked up the beginner grammar for Spanish very quickly because once you're comfortable with the grammar of French, learning the grammar of Spanish is easier. And it's not because there's some magic in it. It's because you accept it a lot quicker. You're like, oh, it's not as intimidating. It just goes in, actually. But then you have to listen to Spanish. You're like, what the hell? Je suis perdu. Voilà. Okay. Did I miss any questions earlier on, guys? Ici au Kenya, on parle le Swahili. Ouais. Et l'anglais, mais français, je fais tout ce que je voulais. Je parle et comprends lorsque je rencontre des Français, mais je ne sais pas comment je peux écrire. Du coup, tu veux savoir comment pratiquer ton français écrit, c'est ça? C'est ça. Bah, une chose que tu peux faire, c'est de tenir un journal en français et écrire toutes tes pensées. Tout ce qui se passe dans ta journée, tout ça, c'est très très utile. Et c'est très personnel en fait, et c'est très cool. Je fais... I have my coaching clients write a journal in particular ways depending on the task and depending on the challenge, and generally it works very well. So I recommend keeping a journal. Oh, now you guys are putting in questions. When I said I've got 7 minutes to go. I have difficulty with the R sound and nasal sounds. Well, is it to the point where people don't understand you? Or is it just because you would really like to pronounce that well? Because if it's stopping you being understood, then perhaps seek out some specialized pronunciation help. Watch a ton of videos on different YouTube channels to find out how to pronounce it well. Find a teacher who is willing to spend time with you only on those sounds, because it sounds like you're being quite specific with the nasal sounds and the R. And work with them, because if you spend time focused on one thing, you will achieve it, and then you can move on to other stuff. So that's wonderful. So well done for identifying that difficulty. And so there's the option of working with a specialist teacher, or just working very hard, listening very carefully to YouTube videos specifically teaching this. I know that We in France, Diane, if she's still here, she made one a few years ago on the French R, and she gives her tips from the perspective of an American. So you might find that useful, the We in France channel. Which verb do you prefer using for to happen, se passer or arriver? So they're different. Se passer is when something is happening, something is going on, right? Think about it like that, something is going on. Qu'est-ce qui se passe aujourd'hui? Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé hier? Right? What is happening? What happened? And arriver is more like happen to someone. Something happens to someone. So, qu'est-ce qui t'est arrivé? Qu'est-ce qui t'est arrivé? Ou qu'est-ce qui arrive? What is coming? What is happening in that way? But it's more like it comes up, it happens. So I suppose there's some case you can say ça arrive, like it happens. It happens, ça arrive. Right, it happens like that. But if something is going on, something has a duration, something is started and there's going to be a finish, I think that's a way to look at it. Se passer. But they are quite different. Kenny, hi, as a long-term learner, I'd like to thank you as your videos are really cleared about some issues I've had throughout the years. How often do you read novels and books in French? Thank you very much, Kenny. I'm really happy that they have helped you out so much. These are just ideas I have in my head, and I think people weren't sharing them, so I thought I would share them and see what happened. 2 years later, here we are, 5,000 people. You guys are wonderful. I don't actually read much, although I was saying earlier I'm reading this book at the moment. Very thin book. I'm very bad at reading. I'm a child of technology, and I spend way too much time on my phone and watching videos. But I do think that reading does help. My vocabulary is not as good as someone else who's been here for 5 years who would have spent a lot of time reading. In fact, I did a video on my channel with a guy called Andy, my friend Andy, who's English, but he's been here for 12 years. And he recommended in one of his 4 tips to read as much as possible, because he says that really, really gets you, increases your level. But do it as a way to enjoy the language as well. So if you like reading and you don't mind being a bit stuck, push through and read in French is a very, very good idea. Très bien, Chris. Je suis content de t'avoir aidé. Yeah, okay. Right, guys, we've got 3 minutes left. Just time for me again to thank you all. Vous êtes super. Je vous adore tous. Et here's to 10,000 whenever that's going to come. Sometime probably early 2021, unless I find time to do a second video. Je veux faire plus de vidéos en français, seul et avec Solène aussi, que je vais publier le vendredi. Mais bientôt, jusqu'ici, j'ai pas le temps. But guys, if you do want to support my work, make my weeks a little bit easier, knowing that I have some extra revenue coming in from the videos, don't hesitate to support me on the channel with a donation, either through, I should have told, is Raoul here still? Raoul, are you still here? Tell me if you are. Because I have remembered that you can also, so you can support me monthly here on the channel using the join button down below, or rejoindre if your YouTube is in French, bravo, for monthly rewards. But you can also do so over on Ko-fi, so ko-fi/French in plain sight, and you can donate to me there. So if you have problems with signing up on YouTube, you can do it via PayPal over on ko-fi.com. And if not, do not worry. Please do like this video, because that really does help me spread the word and get me into the YouTube algorithm, because we are growing. But it is a slow journey until I get picked up one day and then explode to 100,000. And I don't think I'll know what to do when that happens. Anyways, guys, like the video, share it. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment later on if you're watching it back. But it's been 2 hours. Who knew I could talk so much about French? Thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me, and I've loved doing this with you guys. So, merci beaucoup d'être venu. Je vous verrai très bientôt, dimanche prochain, pour une autre vidéo, ou vendredi, si tu deviens membre ou francophile. Wow, Steve, merci beaucoup. C'est très très sympa. The first one, you are awesome. Oh look, the little animation thing worked on the bottom. Huh, fantastic. Waited 2 hours to see if that animation worked at the bottom left. Je suis tellement geek. Ok, super. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde. Merci Agui. Super, super. Et passe un bon fin dimanche où vous êtes. Et je vous verrai très bientôt. Bonsoir.